A few reminders about today's call is it will be about 90 minutes in length. And there'll be opportunity that if you haven't signed up to share something, but as we're going through notes, you have something that you think would be beneficial for others to hear about, we'd really encourage you to share that. Otherwise, while cameras on is fantastic, I know I personally hate speaking to a black screen, and I think the others who are speaking today would agree. If you do need to be able to have your screen off today, that's fine for this meeting. The most important thing is that you're able to listen and then speak up when it's applicable for you. The general purpose of these calls are to bring everyone together from the Grasslands Initiative. We consider a partner anyone who supports what we're doing, and we want to support each other on efforts related to the grasslands. So whether you're a producer, you're somebody that works out of or is based out of state, but works in South Dakota as well, or South Dakota based, we're glad you're here today. So during the call today, we'll do some updates on what's happening specific to the Grasslands Initiative. We'll have some time for partners to give updates on what's happening within their entity, and then we'll also have a producer highlight. And I think that's everything. So on the top of the chat, you should be able to find the agenda. It was also emailed out. This meeting is going to be recorded, so I'll send out the link once we're done if there's anything that you want to go back and reference. And if you're just getting on, I'm encouraging everyone to put their name and their agency in the chat. If you have a website for your operation or your employer, please feel free to add that as well. With that, we'll get going. Just a few things of reminders from the Grasslands Initiative. You've probably heard these already, but I'm going to keep reminding you. If you aren't a formal partner yet and you would like to be, on the top of the agenda is the form to fill out for that. And then with our formal partners, anyone's welcome, but especially our formal partners, I like to do a podcast highlighting what work you're doing. I just completed one today with the Wildlife Society, so watch for that one to be published soon. But if you go to any spot where you get your podcasts, you should be able to find Partners on the Prairie. They're also on our website, and you can listen to about a 20-minute podcast about the different partners around the state. On the agenda, there's a spot to sign up. If you haven't done a podcast yet and would like to, there's a link there to fill out. Another just housekeeping note is that these meetings are a great way for us to verbally hear from each other and have a face to put with the information about what's happening around the state. But if you also have a written synopsis that you'd like to share, the newsletters are a really good way to do that. Our next one will be coming out in early March with a deadline of February 19th. So if something in your organization or on your operation is happening that you'd like to share, we like about a 100 to 300 word synopsis. Send it to me by February 19th, and then we'll send out our partner newsletter from there. Another piece I want to make sure you're aware of is that on our website, and our website is at sdgrassinitiative.org, you can go to the events tab and we have a calendar, and that calendar is set up to have all the happenings around the state related to grasslands, and we're pretty broad with it because the purpose is so that if you're scheduling an event, you can see what else is happening around the same time. And it's also so that the flyers are available. If you're going to an event and you can't find the flyer, hopefully that website has it. So on the bottom of the calendar, you can scroll down and there's flyers or links to the websites for the different events happening around the state. So that's kind of the housekeeping things with the Grasslands Initiative. Next big thing that I want to update you on is what's happening within the work groups of the Grasslands Initiative. We have 4 going right now. If you remember, the Grasslands Initiative has 5 overall goals, and then we developed 4 work groups to help support some of those goals. The work groups are open to anyone. So if you're listening to the happenings of the different work groups and you think one of them would be a really good fit for your skills, and you've got the time, it's roughly maybe about 4 to 6 hours a month is the commitment to kind of plan for. Some are significantly less or more depending on how involved you get in the different projects. But if that's something you'd like to do, reach out to me and I'd love to tell you about the different work groups and ways that you can be involved. So the first one that we have to share about is the education work group. This one is a really exciting project that they're doing. The group got together, went through the notes from the big partner meeting a whole year ago in January, where people were brainstorming all the things that would help. And for the ideas related to education and the grasslands, the thing that came up a lot was we're being asked to go to events or invited places, invited into classrooms, but sometimes not knowing what to bring or having the ability to put something together. So this work group is developing 4 kits that are set up to be grab and go. So these will be available for checkout, or if you want to try to replicate it on your own, that's fine too. With activities that are hands-on and interactive for kids to use. They're being geared towards early elementary, but the activities were selected to be ones that through conversation, you could raise it up to a higher level. And sometimes older kids have fun with the younger ones too. And we felt like these type of activities fit in with that. So the team, we have 4 different groups that are developing those 4 activities. And the goal is to have the kits ready in early March. We are working on what location is going to be the best to house them in. One idea that's come up is perhaps the regional centers with SDSU extension, which for some spots or some sites might be perfect. But we also recognize that maybe there's better options. So if you are at a location that's maybe central around the state, or it wouldn't hurt to get these in a rural area too, and you have a physical space where you could hold maybe 4 totes, varying size, but nothing too huge, and you would be willing to help with the checking out of those kits so that if anyone on this call comes in or somebody else in the community comes in and asks to check it out, you could help provide them with a kit, and then also check in every now and then and see if some of the consumable supplies are running out. Get in touch so we can help refill that. It'll probably get lost in the chat if you put it there, but if you feel like that's a way that you can support the initiative is just by housing one of these kits, please send me a message. We'd really love to have staff who are extra enthusiastic about sharing the Grasslands message, helping us house and distribute these kits. Any questions about what those kits will look like? Otherwise, we'll kind of delve into a quick synopsis of the 4. Okay, Kristen or Jewel, can one of you unmute and tell us about the Web of Life activity?
Is Krista on? I don't.
Mm.
Or Julie. Is Julie on? She could. If not, I can speak on it if she's not.
Why don't you go ahead? Thanks,
Okay.
Jewel.
The activity that Julie and Christy and I are working on is the Web of Life, you might call it. And we're just putting together an activity kit where we'll just have a rope, and each child that's in the group will get to hold it in with a card, and these cards will contain grasses from the prairie, some forbs, different biologies in the earth, and the animals, and then we will talk about how all of this is all connected. And so that's kind of what we're working on right now, is just trying to gather the items for that. Julie found a really nice website that details out how to play the game. So we're going to kind of follow those guidelines, but it's just a matter of just collecting all of our items now. So that's kind of where we're at with our group.
Thank you. Emily, do you want to give an overview of what the CSI activity is?
Sure. So Laura, me, Emily Oyos, and Krista Ehlert and Maggie Figura are working on this. It's called critter scene investigation. So we came up with a few different ideas of scenes to create with like animal footprints or eggshell scraps, that type of a thing, for the kids to look at and decide what happened. And then along with that, we've started developing some worksheets so kids can answer questions and get a bigger picture for what's going on. One of the one of our scenes is you set up some burrowing owl tracks next to some pieces of grasshopper, and then they have to figure out through their sleuthing skills that the burrowing owl is eating the grasshopper, basically. And then answer some questions about like where do they live and why are they important to the grasslands, that type of a thing. So we'll have all of the stuff for those scenes put together, and we're currently looking for life-size pollinators and flowers. So if people have ideas, let me or Laura know. So
Yes, we're finding that a lot of like those bug kits aren't, when you want the kid to compare them to the guidebook, they aren't to scale or the colors aren't accurate. So if anyone has a great
yeah.
source for that, let us know. All right, thank you. Next one, tall grass printmaking, Janice.
Hi, yeah. So David Parker and I, with Laura's help, have been working on a tall grass print. And basically, what it is it's an activity where they can learn about South Dakota native grass species and a little bit of plant identification. And what they're basically doing is taking a plant sample and using it to make a painted print. Right now, we're kind of looking for good examples of printed copies of plants to use for doing the printmaking, as well as using some pressed species as well. Still have to test that out to make sure that they work well for a print. Other than that, that's kind of the basis of it, so they can learn a little bit about the South Dakota plant species.
And then I'll give the update on the last one. We were talking about a scavenger hunt. And the way that this group evolved was working on that Grasslands mural, which I think a lot of you have seen with the 6 panels, which is also now going to be available for more of a tabletop size. So it's 2 feet by 2 feet rather than the huge mural for more of a classroom setting. And so that group worked on how to develop a scavenger hunt so that if parents are looking at the mural with their kids or if students have it in their classroom, what's a way to help them interact a little bit more? So it asks questions like, can you find a scavenger? Can you name one of the butterflies or the bees shown on this mural? So that'll be available with the Grasslands mural coming around as well. So thank you to that work group. I also wanted to point out the activities are being set up with guidebooks and all the resources. So the person putting on the activity is not expected to be a grassland expert. So that's the way they're being designed. Thanks. Okay, next work group to update you on is our Connecting Grassland Producers and Programs. This is the work group that's focused on how do we make sure that grassland producers who want to utilize conservation programs know about them and know what their options are and can find the one that's the best fit for them. This work group is starting off with the interview project, which I think a lot of you have seen about. We want to interview 50 different producers, and we're going to be working with the Bureau of Sociological Research out of Nebraska to conduct the interviews. And those 50 interviews will just help us get some insight into some of the barriers to participation and what are some ways that we could maybe be more creative in helping get the information to the producers and the landowners. First of all, I want to start off with a huge thank you to anyone who did help share on social media or an email. And getting the word out that we are looking for people to interview. Right now, we're up to 70 people who are interested in interviewing, which is fantastic. That being said, we do need to continue to recruit because we want to cast a really big net so that way we can be selective and make sure that we're picking individuals who perhaps haven't done a lot of haven't utilized a lot of programs yet, so we can make sure we're hearing their perspective and making sure that we're hearing from different types of producers around the state. So please continue to help recruit for that, but thank you for everything that you've done already. It's coming along very nicely. The interviews should be done in the next few months, and then we hope to have the report this summer to share with everyone some of the key findings from that. The other next work group to update you on is the Grasslands Outreach Work Group. This one's a little more focused on like the marketing side of things. So we've set up a communication hub. So if your entity or if you kind of work in communications and outreach related to the grasslands, we have a Google group that we'd love to put you in. And that's where you can kind of share about some different grassland things happening, or if you develop some social media that you think others could use those graphics or information pieces, they can be shared through there. The work group is also finalizing their communications plan, which kind of helps us focus where we want to put our energy. We wrapped up having some conversations with Travel SD to make sure that Grasslands were included in the Forever 605 and Hunt the Greatest campaigns, which they're already a natural fit for. We've also been having conversations with Miss South Dakota. She has a channel that she's getting going called Nurturing Nature. So one of her projects is to bring more awareness to the nature in South Dakota. So we're working with her to give her some ideas of stories that especially highlight grassland and grassland ecosystems. We're also going to be working with NRCS so that next week we'll have a presence at the South Dakota Tourism Conference. So looking forward to having kind of some different conversations there. And the last piece, I'm not sure if it was to this full group, but we discussed that wings over water and looking at ways of showing that around the state. It does seem like that's going to be available for streaming in the near future. So that conversation is kind of on pause, but it's something to keep thinking about ways that you could share it in your community once streaming becomes available. All right, the next work group, we have our Grassland Conservation Strategy work group. Jim, do you want to give the report from that group?
Sure. Thanks, Laura, and good afternoon, everybody. So, of course, it's been a lot of attention around Farm Bill activities and stuff, and but one of the things we really want to draw your attention to is the ongoing situation with property tax in South Dakota. And the latest thing, and I'm sure most of you have probably heard about it, is a movement to get on the ballot for 2026 a limitation to in a percentage wise limitation to the amount that non-ag and owner occupied housing can go up, which obviously there needs to be X number of dollars raised within the state to keep the state current and moving forward, and as well as the counties and schools. And of course, if it's limited on that category, that means ag's probably going to be picking up the bill, or potentially can. One of the proposals that's out there, supported by a number of legislators, and I heard Will Mortensen on TV last night talking about it. He's signing on as a supporter, so that's going to carry some weight from the majority. But they're supporting a plan to increase sales tax in lieu of raising any other tax categories, which seems to be finding some support. But I think that don't mean it's going to pass. Obviously, there's a lot more taxpayers in the state of South Dakota in the non-ag category. And so if that goes to a vote of the people, I would say, and suggest that agriculture is probably going to be in trouble. And right along with that, with our typical tax structure the way it is, Grasslands is already getting the short end of the stick with the tax structure the way it is, and that would make it even more uneven, in my opinion. So keep that on your radar. We don't know where it's going, but something's going to happen, obviously. One of the other things, we constantly try to build relationships with our legislators and congressional members, and appreciate anything any of you can do to help in that, and have helped in that movement. One of the things that's ongoing now with the new administration coming on, that means a new FSA director and tech committee in state of South Dakota. And the initiative has been approached about submitting names for those positions, both the director and the tech committee. If you have anybody in mind, and really put on your thinking cap on this, this is a real important position and important to what can happen as far as Grassland's voice. So if you know of anybody you think would be a good fill-in for that, please email Laura and let her know. I already mentioned one of the things this committee does is try to continue building congressional relationships. And of course, we've spent a number of efforts in sign-on letters, a lot of them centered around the Farm Bill. And of course, that'll be ongoing. One of the things that I want to encourage, and Laura already brought it up, but the fact that encourage all of you that are on this call to join as official partners. And I encourage private landowners especially. Many of you on the call have organizations that are already represented, but as ag owners, I think it's really important that we show the support for the Grassland Initiative, and the more people that are on there as official members, and it don't cost a cent, so there's really no reason not to do it. So just encourage you to do that. So unless there's questions, Laura, or you have something to add, that's all I have.
I do not have anything. Any questions on any of the work groups? All right. If not, anyone who spoke today, I think would be happy to answer questions if you want to reach out directly to them. Next, we're shifting into our partner updates, part of the agenda. So this is the opportunity for us to hear what's happening around the state and find ways that maybe we can support others or help landowners connect and just be aware of what's happening. First, we're going to put Pete Bauman on. He's got another call coming up, so we're going to bump him up to give his updates first. Pete, are you on and available?
I am.
Perfect.
So quickly, we had the Prescribed Fire Forum with the initiative supported on December 18th, which was a really positive statewide meeting on kind of the status of prescribed fire use on grasslands, prescribed fire training. A lot of our focus over the last couple of years has been on woody encroachment and things like that. And this forum, it addressed that to some degree, but it also just talked about the nuts and bolts of providing fire education and training to producers and agency staff and NGO staff across the state. So all indicators on feedback on that, it was very positive. Many of you obviously probably couldn't attend that or weren't able to, and the entire forum will be recorded and should be available on SDSU's YouTube channel shortly, similar to the format that Laura used during the Grassland Summit that we held last year. And Laura, what was the second thing? Oh, Grassland Management School, correct? Yeah. So we just had a meeting this morning. We'll be offering a Grassland Management School, a new version of that under the South Dakota Grassland Coalition and supported by the initiative, of course, February 11th and 12th in Chamberlain. And that's geared toward anyone interested in understanding the process of discernment going into grassland restoration projects and the nuts and bolts of how to get them done. Everything from soils, understanding cropping history, tools, techniques, equipment, timing, seed sourcing, etc. We're kind of doing that on a day and a half session, 11th and 12th, and that'll be followed up with some level of tours this summer. We've got to discuss that a little deeper, but either bus or vehicle tours to sites that have been that are in various stages of restoration. So that's the quick and dirty on that.
And if you aren't aware of those events, if they didn't come into your inbox, I'd recommend you email Pete and you'll get on his email list to make sure that you're aware of future events going forward. Pete, do you want to throw your email in the chat just in case somebody doesn't have it?
I will. Yep.
Thank you. All right. Our next update is on the Second Century Habitat Fund with Liz.
Hope you all can hear me. I was having some issues with my headgear here, so
We can hear you well.
perfect. So I'm Liz Curl. I recently, just today, started with the Second Century Habitat Fund. I'm the executive director there. And so I'm looking forward to working with you all in the future with all the projects that we have going on. A little bit about me. For the past two and a half years, I've worked for the Game Fish and Parks. I was Kevin Roebling's executive assistant. He's the department secretary, and if you know Kevin, he's a little bit high energy, so he's fun to try to keep track of and keep him going where he needs to go. Before that, I was the executive director in Valentine, Nebraska for the Sandhills Cattle Association, where I worked with about 1,200 producers there throughout the Sandhills. And then before that, I worked for Little Blue NRD, which is a natural resource district in Nebraska. I was their media and communications manager and also their database manager prior to that. And so I have a lot of experience working with producers and landowners on different landscapes, on different types of terrain, and I'm excited to get going in this position with Second Century. My husband works for Game Fish and Parks. He's a wildlife damage specialist. And then I have 2 kids, an 18-year-old that goes to school for business and in business management and accounting. And then I have a son who's a high schooler and loves to get out there and play some football. We're passionate about the outdoors. We spend a lot of time out there. We're down in Nebraska, we had a small ranch, had cows, sheep, goats, you name it, we had it. And we're kind of following that here in Murdo, where I live. So for those of you that aren't aware of Second Century, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We work with landowners to convert marginal cropland into habitat. And so we've recently got awarded an $11.3 million grant for NRCS through the RCPP, which is an amazing and tremendous feat for us. We're very excited to get out there and start putting some more habitat out on the landscape. With that, we're looking to secure about 6,000 acres of habitat and roughly, I think 315,000 feet of tree plantings with fence installations with that. So we're looking at trying to get that program implemented by March. And that first year, we're going to try to get 5,000 acres enrolled. It's a lofty goal, but I think with all of your help and with all of the Game Fish and Parks' help, we can definitely do that. Let's see here. Oh, we have $1 million that we have to secure for our part of the in-kind contribution to that grant. So over the next 5 years, we're going to have to raise about $200,000 per year. So you'll be seeing that we'll be having raffles and whatnot. Please reach out, support, do what you need to do, share our social media posts and whatnot so that we can get that raised to try to get that landscape put back out there. Let's see here. We are, since discussing with the board on things that we need to kind of work on in the future, we're working on engagement and brand awareness. So we're, today we just launched a decal contest where you can go in and you can vote on those submissions. So that'll be really fun and engaging for our audience. And I hope that that gets a lot of traction. Then we're currently working on trying to schedule some meetings, or I'm currently working to schedule some meetings with those partners that maybe we've not been in touch with lately. We are going to hit the Ranchers Workshop in White River. We're going to be part of the Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus at the end of January there. We're going to be presenting at the South Dakota Chapter of Wildlife Society at the end of February, and then we'll also be at Pheasant Fest in Kansas City. So that's kind of the rundown of what I've got going on right now. I'll be a little bit hung up in trying to secure this or to finalize this grant package with NRCS. And once we get that going, we're going to start launching and having producer signups hopefully in March. So if you have any questions, please reach out. I did provide all of my information up above in the chat. And I appreciate you guys giving us time, and I look forward to being a great partner in the future with you guys.
Great. Thank you very much, Liz. Appreciated the update and learning a little bit more. Next, we have Jewel Bork.
All right. Thank you for letting me talk today. I just wanted to let everybody know that the Ranchers Workshop is coming up on this Wednesday, and we're excited to have it. We have Direct Woodwell coming back. He's going to give some updates on the Eastern Red Cedar control and what his team is doing right now. We have Victor Tushin from NRCS, and he'll be speaking on the economics of the woody encroachment on stocking rates. Ron Frederick will be speaking on social media addiction and its effects on mental health. And then our last speaker will be Krista Ehlert, and her topic is considerations for range management and grazing after a dry fall. So all we feel are very good topics for our ranching community, and that's kind of our target audience. So we have that going on Wednesday. So if you're able to attend, we would sure invite you. And then coming up on February 4th through the 16th, we are bringing Dr. Lee Mansky and his associate Toby Stroll back to our area. This will be his third workshop that he has put on for our help with South Central, hosting him along with Farm Credit Services. And also the South Dakota Soil Health Coalition is also a partner in this workshop. And it will be a 3-day workshop. Lots of information will be put out there on the science behind how grass grows and how to optimize it to boost productivity. Season-long approach to grazing and harvesting forages. And they'll be talking about tools on how to determine your the production that you have out there in your pasture. And then we're also going to be speaking on the woody encroachment control, the buckbrush and eastern red cedar, that type of thing, will also be addressed during this workshop. We encourage booths if anybody would like to have a booth there. The South Dakota Soil Health Coalition is having one. South Central will have their eastern red cedar booth available to view. And so if anybody's interested in that, you can contact me. I have a registration form that I can email out to you. And there'll be more information at the Ranchers Workshop on Wednesday.
So I'm also going to note, because I've realized how similar these are. So there's the grazing management workshop that Joel was speaking about, taking place in winter the first week in February. And the second one is the grassland management workshop, which is what Pete was talking about, taking place in Chamberlain, Owatcoma. So 2 separate events, similar sounding names, different information. Right. Thank you, Jewel. Any questions for Jewel? Okay. The next update we have is on a newer partner here to make sure that we're all aware about this resource with Earth Optics. So Ryan, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Yeah, nice being here. We just started being a partner. I guess it was probably back in December. A little bit about myself. I am the director of rangelands at Earth Optics. Prior to that, I was the R&D scientist at Indigo Ag. I worked there for 5 years doing research, field research with growers and producers to better understand the impacts of soil, the impacts of conservation and regenerative practices on soil and soil carbon. So I did that across the US, and I started with Earth Optics back in November. And like I said, or as Laura had alluded to, I just wanted to make sure you guys are all aware. We do joint projects with multiple entities. We have some with American Farmland Trust. We have some, with, I'm trying to think, who else do we have it with? I think it was like Farm Journal, and there are a few others out there. But those are the prominent ones that come to my mind. But as Earth Optics functions, basically, we do a lot of the soil sampling and testing for different projects across the US. A lot of them deal with the carbon markets. So we do a lot of stuff with like Indigo, Truterra, Carbon B. I'm sorry, that's wrong. B Carbon and Grassroots Carbon, Kateri, and others. And so if anybody is interested in learning more, I'm happy to talk to them about that. Or if there's interest in, getting your soils analyzed for nutrition or bulk density or some other factors, I'm happy to talk about that as well. But glad to be a part of this group, and look forward to connecting with you, some of you or more of you in the future.
Thanks, Ryan. Brian and I will be doing a podcast in the near future too. So if you want to have a deeper understanding of what Earth Optics offers, you can listen in on that. Next, we have Brian Wilson. And while he's bringing up his Zoom, I just want to make a note that we are actually ahead of schedule. So please don't feel guilty taking up everyone's time. We're here to learn about what's happening around the state. So we'd really love if you have a 2-minute story about an event that you put on, or something you have coming up, or a project, feel free to send me a message and we'll get you added onto the agenda. Thanks. Brian, if you'd like to go ahead with Working Lands Conservation Corps.
Thanks, Laura. I guess pressure's on. I could talk too much or not enough. So just for clarity, I'm actually with the Montana Conservation Corps, separate from the Working Lands Conservation Corps with the Corps Network. I think I saw Vivian on here. 2 separate entities, though colleagues and partners and all we do. Yeah, about an hour ago, got an invite to this thing and I'm happy to be here. Basically just wanted to share with folks some opportunities we have coming up this year, and then also happy to talk about anything and everything conservation, and we'll be joining these meetings more frequently. Laura, I already sent you a whatever Google form. So again, with Montana Conservation Corps, we are a nonprofit organization, been around for about 35 years. And we place AmeriCorps members with partner organizations. If you're not familiar with AmeriCorps, kind of think domestic Peace Corps. The whole idea is young adults coming in, doing good work on the landscape. What we do is place those folks with partner organizations. So those are typically conservation-based nonprofits, watershed groups, conservation districts, federal, state, local entities, tribal agencies, that sort of thing. And those folks will typically implement, plan projects. Whole goal is building capacity, lead education and outreach events, recruit volunteers, that sort of thing. And what we have most recently available are 2 programs we call Conservation Fellows and Conservation Interns. Here, and I'll put a little info in the chat. Basically, those folks serve May to October or May to August, and we place those with those entities, those partners that we have. Again, implementing projects, planning things, education, outreach, that kind of stuff. And what is a little different from the Working Lands Conservation Corps, and Vivian, you chime in if I'm screwing this up, they are able to do a lot more direct service. It also does come with a cost share. So the Conservation Fellows, for each fellow is $14,000. For the interns, it's $10,500. And we're actually hosting an informational webinar tomorrow at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 1 p.m. Central Time. You can find info in the stuff that I put on the chat if you want to learn more. What's a little unique about it is, let's say we decide to partner and you want to host an intern, one of those folks that go May to August. We do initial recruitment, typically get about 1,000 applications for about 100 positions each year. We cover insurance, workers' comp, payroll, a lot of help and support with supervision, provide some additional training, make connections across the network on how to get projects off the ground. Overall, I think it's just great to be able to share this stuff with you guys, and would gladly field any questions. I've been talking with Colette with NRCS for several years about this and trying to get more work done in South Dakota. So we do place folks in the Dakotas, Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana. So more than happy to chat more about it, answer any questions, and feel free to reach out anytime. I think that covers it, Laura.
Perfect. Thank you.
You bet.
Anything to add? Any questions? Or Vivian, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, thanks. I can piggyback off of that. And thanks, Brian. So I'm Vivian Mead. I'm the program manager for the Working Lands Climate Corps over at the Corps Network. And so the Corps Network, we are a membership organization of over 150 service corps across the nation, and Montana Conservation Corps is a member of ours. And the Working Lands Conservation Corps is a new initiative that launched last February 2024 in partnership with the Core Network, the Natural Resources Conservation Services, the National Association of Conservation Districts, and AmeriCorps. So this program is geared to train the next generation of conservationists in regenerative agriculture and forestry practices. So the Working Lands Conservation Corps members, with being AmeriCorps members, this is a little bit different of an AmeriCorps program. Brian kind of stated it, but these members are not actually in the field doing wildfire mitigation. They're not building anything. They're not doing that typical implementation work that you see AmeriCorps members doing. But these members are doing a lot of the kind of what I call really boots on the ground. So connecting with the farmers and producers and landowners, conducting data collection, doing a lot of community outreach, and then focusing on education. And then providing a lot of conservation technical
Just need to
assistance
write this for
producers
mobile deposit
and
only at
landowners.
AENB.
Applications are open now to host a Working Lands Conservation Corps member, and I'll put the information in the chat. A lot of members are working within conservation districts. They're working in NRCS offices. They could be nonprofits. And so we will be hosting information sessions as well. I do want to, again, kind of reiterate that the work of this program is focused a lot on community outreach, education, conservation technical assistance, and then workforce development. And I do want to give a shout out. There is a WLCC member on this call. So thank you, Becca, for your service and work that you're doing with Monarch Joint Venture. And so if you all have any questions about the program, about the application, feel free to reach out to me. We are extending the deadline of the application, I think, through the end of March. So that gives everyone time to put together the app. And then again, we will be hosting information sessions, and that will be with NRCS, NACD. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. The next person I have on my list, Jacqueline Downey.
Hi, I'm going to put my contact information in the chat, and then also, there we go. Well, hi everyone, I'm Jacqueline Downey. I'm Director of Community Building for Audubon Rockies. Audubon Rockies is a regional office of the National Audubon Society, and we are in Utah, Wyoming, Utah and Colorado. And I wanted to share one of the things that we've created. So being involved with the education part of Audubon Rockies, we have been working on different books for youth. The first one that we created a couple years ago was on the sagebrush ecosystem. Then we did one on migration. But this last one that we did is called Voice of the Grasslands. And this is the book here. And it's available free for download for anybody. You can also order copies. If anybody on this call or partners had a big event or something that they wanted to print a whole bunch of them, be happy to send over the PDF version that you could then have it printed on your own. As long as you weren't charging for it, that's absolutely fine. This particular book follows Mateo and his friend as they're learning about the grassland. One of the fun things about this particular book is that there's these QR codes that you can scan to hear voices from that particular subject that we're talking about on that page. There's also on the website, on the webpage, there's also some activities and follow-up and some suggested books. If anybody had any ideas of other things I could include to supplement it as far as books or other resources, I'm happy to link to someone else's page if they've got resources. Really just happy to share and collaborate on that as well. But again, yeah, so this is Voices of the Grassland. I put that link in the chat here. I don't know if I can share my screen,
If not, give me a sec.
but
It's coming up.
so another part. Another part about this is that we invited different people who are working in the grasslands to be a part of it. And so in the back, there's careers of the people that work in the grasslands. For example, one person being Mel Torres, a PhD researcher, and then you can kind of figure out where they work on which page, like where would they have been doing their activities, or a game and fish biologist who's doing conifer removal in the grasslands, things like that. So it also incorporates careers as well.
Looks like a great book. Thanks for making us aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and stop. Oh, and you mentioned perhaps needing someone to illustrate, and I'm happy to share the illustrator of this book. His name is Eric Strong, and he's really great to work with. So
Thank you. Next update, and the last one on my list right now, is Emily Rohr. But if anyone else would like to, you'll have a chance as well. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, thank you. So the Natural Resources Conservation Service, Farm Service Agency, and Rural Development is planning a session at the Black Hills Stock Show this year to help beginning farmers and ranchers learn about all of the assistance opportunities available. So that will be on February 5th from 11 to 3, I believe. And they're working on getting a poster created and getting more information out. So look for that and hopefully share it with all of your peoples if you can. And then starting from 3 to 5, the same day, same room, we're going to be doing financial assistance opportunities for women in agriculture event. So that will be just for any producers, any women producers that want to come and learn more about all of the opportunities that like NRCS, Farm Service Agency, and other partners, think like Audubon, Nature Conservancy, and Bird Conservancy of the Rockies. Sure, there's others that I'm missing, are going to come in and talk about what they've got going on. So if you're interested in coming and speaking, let me know. Just like introducing yourselves basically and just being there to network is my goal of the event. So and that again is February 5th, and I'll have that Laura share that on the calendar as well. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Emily. Okay. Well, we can move into Adam's presentation. We do have a little bit of time if anyone has, I know that somebody around the state has something interesting that they've been doing. If you'd like to unmute and share, please do so. We'll give you a minute.
Yeah, Laura, I'll just real quick give just a brief update for NRCS. Our chief, Cosby, has stepped aside, and our new acting chief is James Tillman Sr. So for you, those of you who are working in the upper echelons of NRCS, just know that we have an acting chief right now. I was going to go through our numbers for our state programmatic work real quick, but I don't think I'll bore you with that. I'll just dump those numbers in the chat so folks can have it in writing. I think as an agency as a whole, we still feel that with the leadership that we're going to have through the administration change, that we're confident that funding will remain strong for conservation, with the new administration. So. We're going to keep pushing ahead as we have in the last couple of years, where we've done a lot of good on the landscape over 1.2 million acres last year alone. So anyway, just wanted to quick give that update so folks knew who was at the helm right now until further notice, I guess. Thanks, everyone. Let me know if you have questions, or reach out to me if you need anything from NRCS.
Any other updates?
I can give one quick. Clayton Lank with the National Wild Turkey Federation. Right now we have a request for proposal period open for our Waterways for Wildlife initiative. It's a riparian focused initiative. Things that would be eligible for this funding would be anything from education outreach, actual conservation on the ground implementation projects, acquisitions, easements, kind of anything in regards to riparian habitat would qualify for this funding. So if anybody has any questions on potential projects or eligibility or anything regarding the initiative, I think I've sent out the documents in the past, but if anybody wants more info on it, just let me know. But those applications are due February 7th, so a little less than a month. But if anybody has any questions specifically on the funding source or anything like that, just let me know.
Thanks, Clayton. Any others?
I'm not sure. I may have missed it, but the South Dakota Soil Health Conference
It hasn't been brought up today, so go
okay.
ahead.
So that's this week, Wednesday and Thursday. It starts, I believe, at noon on Wednesday. It's in Watertown. I put a link in the chat. So it starts at noon on Wednesday till 5, and then I believe on Thursday it's probably from 9 to 5. There's a wonderful panel of speakers, including Dr. Jonathan Lundgren from Ecdysis Foundation. So it should be a really fantastic conference.
Thanks for making sure everyone's aware of that. Okay, the next question I have, if anyone has any updates, go ahead. Is there anyone who's been in their role for 6 months or less that maybe it would be helpful if you introduced yourself so that when others see you at events where they might run into you, they have a little bit of a face to put with the name?
Hi everybody, that is me. My name is Sarah Albright. I'm the new Grasslands program manager at Bird Conservancy of the Rockies. And I don't live in South Dakota, but one of the wildlife habitat biologists that I supervise is based in Sturgis, South Dakota, and she is housed in the NRCS office. And so she's very involved with a lot of conservation delivery programs across the state, as well as education and outreach. And so I'm transitioning to be her new supervisor. So I'll also by adjacency be working in South Dakota as well. And I think we're looking to hire another wildlife habitat biologist in another portion of South Dakota. So just wanted to introduce myself here in case I see anybody around.
Thanks, Sarah. Anyone else under 6 months-ish that's wanting to introduce themselves?
I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Whitney Polich. I'm the new communications coordinator with Prairie Pothole Joint Venture. And I just started in October, so I'm still learning what my role is and what the Prairie Pothole Joint Venture role is. And if you have any questions or any ideas for us, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you and get to know you. So thank you.
Thanks, Whitney. Updates from anyone else?
I'll go ahead and introduce myself, Liam O'Connor. I work with the Nature Conservancy at the Ordway Prairie here in Leola, South Dakota. Came here from previous position with PF in Northwest Montana. And I kind of clicked through some of the names. I recognize a few of the names here. Went to SDSU a couple of years back and I've spent quite a bit of time in South Dakota, I guess. So good to be back and excited to be a part of what we got going on here. So thanks.
Welcome back to South Dakota. Anyone else?
I can go next. Hi, everyone. I'm Hillary Morey with Western Area Power Administration. I'm the Upper Great Plains biologist for WAPA. So my territories include North and South Dakota, Montana, a little bit of Iowa, and a little bit of Minnesota and Nebraska as well. I've been in my role since May, so a little over 7 months now, but not new to the state. I worked for Game Fish and Parks for the last 11 years prior to that as a fisheries biologist for 5 years, and then 5 years doing environmental review type of work.
Thanks, Hillary. Anyone else? All right, then we'll move on. Please know that, yes, we'll be meeting again. Don't jump off yet though, because the most exciting part's coming yet. But our next meeting will be April 14th. So if you want to keep it in mind that we'd love to hear any updates. The newsletter is a great way to get the word out too, but sometimes it's just more fun to hear directly from a person. So with that, we'll move over to Adam Roth. He is with Daybreak Ranch. If you follow the South Dakota Grassland Coalition's Amazing Grasslands videos, their ranch was highlighted in December, I believe, so some of you might have seen the video on it. If not, it's on the agenda link if you want to look at it later. But otherwise, we'll let Adam take over. The point of the producer highlights is just a time to hear a little bit about how different producers operate, different thoughts that they have going through their minds as they're doing their management of their land, and an opportunity to ask questions too. So as he's presenting, feel free to jot down some questions for him. And thank you very much, Adam, for joining us today.
Thank you, Laura. Everything working okay?
Yes, you're good to go.
Great. Thanks, Laura. And I'd like to thank the South Dakota Grassland Initiative for giving me the opportunity to talk about our ranch and our farming operation today. I'd like to start by saying that most of the success of our operation is due to having a great mentor and a father-in-law like Jim Fulstick. We run our operation as one, but we both have our own cattle and land. We share equipment. So a lot of the philosophies that I have learned is by having Jim at my side. I have been very fortunate and lucky that I have not experienced a lot of the hardships that Jim has had to go through with his ranching career. So it's been very helpful having him his guidance. Some of the goals that we try to follow on the ranch and farm is calving with nature, trying not to let brome go to seed, and grazing year round. When I first started working with Jim, we started calving in the middle of March, and we were feeding a lot of hay. We slowly started backing our calving date back over several years. And now we're calving mostly in May and June, and we hardly feed any hay anymore. Most of our calving pastures is in a specific area. It's kind of divided up into about 7 different paddocks. And then we'll rotate through these based on the amount of forage available and how fast the cows are calving. We probably end up moving maybe every 4 or 5 days, especially when we're getting a lot of calves. We go ahead and we move the cows that haven't calved yet and keep them on fresh grass. And then the ones that haven't calved, after the calves have got a little age on them, then we'll start to group them together and then kind of move them onto fresh grass too. And we kind of keep this rotation going until we get everything calved out and then everything moved out onto our summer pastures. So our goal for not allowing brome to go to seed, we utilize a couple different yearling programs for that. The first is we have our steers, and we usually sell them around the first of the year, but the producer cooperator that buys them, he'll pay us to feed them out over the winter, and then we'll kind of keep an eye on how things are looking in the spring, and if we know we're going to have grass, we try to get those steers out on the grass and flash graze as many pastures as we can. And then usually he'll come and get them in about the middle of July. But if things don't look very good and spring grass isn't coming, we have arrangements made that he has to come and pick those steers up within 2 weeks, and then we'll get rid of them. The other yearling program that we run is we have our own heifers that we use for breeding, and some of those will be kept to go back into our own herd, and then the rest gets sent over to Minnesota, where we're working with a purebred Red Angus breeder that has a purebred annual production sale. And to keep the commercial aspect in his sale, we'll run those heifers through his sale. And so kind of the same thing. If it looks like it's going to be a dry year, though, we'll probably maybe try to figure on dry lotting those heifers, or maybe we'll send them out to Minnesota a little sooner than we planned. Both of these programs are part of our drought plan. Our drought plan is something we monitor year round, focusing on several key months. First, we look in October, noticing how much rain we're getting and what it's looked like going into the fall. And then next, we really look at the months of April and May. And those 2 months are going to really dictate how the rest of our year is probably going to look. If it's starting to look dry, then we'll make arrangements with those steers to be the first things to go. And then we also run a cull group that if things keep getting worse, we'll go ahead and we'll get rid of that cull group. The other thing that I do to kind of always be prepared if we need to keep downsizing our herd because it's getting dry is I'm really particular when we're calving. I really put almost each cow is put into a category, and we can always go back and look and pick out the next group that we want to get rid of, and always keeping that higher quality stock around until it's the last thing we have to get rid of. The last goal that I want to try and achieve, or that we try to achieve each year, I shouldn't say the last, just the is we like to try and graze our cattle year round. We normally don't get this done based on the winters that we have, but so we make sure we have plenty of hay on hand. We do run the cows out on corn stalks and other crop aftermath. We've started planting a season-long cover crop. We've been fairly successful planting this forage sorghum mix that we can run our cows out on, which really extends that winter grazing period. And we also kind of like it because we've looked at doing cover crops themselves in the past, and with our drier than usual in the summer, we just really haven't seen the huge benefits that come with that. But we're still trying, and because we're really hoping for that soil health and then, helping our wildlife. So going back to kind of how I got started, I grew up on a farm and ranch about an hour northeast of Highmore. I had 2 older brothers that were going to go back and take our family farm over. So I was really not planning on becoming a farmer and rancher. I had ideas of probably doing something else, but that's when I was fortunate enough to meet my wife, Jackie, my future wife. She grew up on a farm and ranch and had no brothers. So Jim and I worked together a couple summers and got along really well. And so I decided to start helping him full time. Jackie and I then had our first opportunity to purchase some land in 2004. It had been something we'd been renting for a few years prior to that. It was a section and a half of ground that had been season-long grazed and had a little farm ground on it. The fences were pretty terrible, and there was a little water development on it. I think it maybe had like 3 dugouts and a well. So with the help of several government agencies, we started rebuilding the fences and established a reliable water system with rural water. And then next we started converting some of the marginal farm ground back into a native warm season grass, which was mainly a mix of big blue stem, Indian grass, and side oats. This kind of gave us much more of a diverse landscape that allowed us to run more cattle. Then in 2017, we had the opportunity to purchase some land that was adjacent to it. It was also ground that was all pasture. It was all season long grazed. It had a lot of bare soil when we took it over. Had been quite abused. So with all that bare soil, we thought we'd try something maybe crazy, maybe not, with the help of U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And we did a little experiment. Between Jim and I, we had a bunch of grass seed and legume seed left over from other projects, seeding projects, that we took into our local agronomy center and had them mix it up for us. And then we went and we flew that all on in the fall of 2017. And then the following spring, then we tried to get our yearling groups up there and try to get as much hoof action as possible to try and stir that seed around. And it has taken several years, but we are starting to finally see some response from that. We mainly been seeing big blue stem and some yellow blossom alfalfa, but there was a lot of other varieties in that mix, and I can't remember them all, but I think if you really went out there and started looking around, you'd start seeing a lot of different things. Something else we're trying to do with that area is we're grazing it early in the spring, and then we get out of there and so we're trying to let those warm season grasses get established. In addition to that land, the land that we own, we also rent about another 2,200 acres. It's mostly pasture, but there is some farm ground. Most of our pasture ground is split up into 80-acre paddocks, which allows us to rotate maybe every 2 weeks or sooner, all based on forage availability. The farm ground is all no-till, and we have like a 4-year rotation: corn, sunflowers, and oats. And like I mentioned before, though, we are starting to add into the rotation along season-long cover crop that we utilize for that winter grazing when and where we can. This forage sorghum cover crop is also utilized in our hunting operation. So Jim and I do have a hunting operation that we run together. We usually place about 100 acres of food plots, and then we leave them standing for the wildlife over the winter. Really try and look holistically at where we can leave ungrazed ground that will allow for nesting and cover for birds and wildlife. I believe that kind of being diverse is one of the things that has helped us to be as successful as we are. Being able to rely on different enterprises when from year to year, you never know what's going to be more profitable or what we look at there. So with that, it's kind of a real brief review of my operation and stuff. There's a lot of other things that we kind of do, but that's about all I got right now. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thanks, Adam. That was a good overview of the kind of the why to for what you do on the operation. Any questions? All right, we'll give you a virtual round of applause, not quite the same as in person, but thank you very much for joining us, Adam. Any questions, though? Send them to the chat or unmute.
Thanks again.
All right, thanks, Adam. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of time. Is there anyone else that I missed for introductions or that an update came to mind that you'd like to share?
Can everybody hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Carter.
Just wanted to hop on here and introduce myself. I got hired on with Pheasants Forever as the monarch and native pollinator biologist, and I cover statewide, so looking to make new partnerships and follow up on some older ones. If you have reached out to me in email, I'm a little buried in those right now with all the new partnerships I'm making, but I'll get back to you, and I'm just excited to be in this new space of educators. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks, Carter. Ooh, Adam, if you're still on. Yep, there's a question that came in. What do you think is the best advice you have for conservation professionals for working with landowners?
I guess I would say just meeting with them individually and really find out what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish. Be very, very interactive on what they're doing and yeah, being both ways, you know, just listen to each other and working together, I guess.
Thanks for the answer and thanks for the question. Okay, no more updates from anyone? Okay, then we are all here together. And if you have the time available, I'm going to put us in some breakout rooms, about 5 to 10 people per room. And I'd love if until about 2:20, if you would take 10 minutes, and I'll leave it open if you're continuing the conversation, but just going around in a smaller group, getting to know some of the people in this space and hearing about the different things happening around the state. So breakout rooms until about 2:20. And then if you want to sign off, you're welcome to. If you need to get going sooner, I understand, but really hoping that some of you can take advantage of us all being here together to turn your camera on and visit in a smaller space. Thanks. Thank you everyone very much for joining us today.